God, the apes got loose.
The PS1 is a great console to look back on. A lot of their exclusives have stood the test of time, from Resident Evil to Spyro the Dragon to Crash Bandicoot. However, with these franchises thriving through several generations of consoles, some better than others,
what the hell is this?
there are games that slowly slip through the cracks as time goes on. What was once considered synonymous with the PlayStation brand is now nothing more than a footnote in their history, or a cameo in Astro Bot. Ape Escape came out in 1999, courtesy of Japan Studio, one of the titans of early Sony gaming. These guys helped work on a lot of great titles. Jumping Flash, Parappa the Rapper, Everybody's Golf, the list goes on and on.
This franchise is considered a classic amongst the PlayStation's extensive library. But as the years go on, the games get older. I mean, we haven't gotten a new entry for this series since 2010 on the PS3. And that was a PlayStation Move exclusive, so only like 2 people in the world played it.
With the franchise being around as long as it has, and with it not getting a new entry in the past 15 years, there really isn't much to do but look back on it, see how it's held up. So with that said, today, let's take a look back to the very first entry in the franchise. Now, I'm gonna be honest, the PlayStation 1 isn't really my forte. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for the console. I mean, I've played some Final Fantasies and a Twisted Metal here and there, but most of my expertise really lies within the PlayStation 3 and 4. So this game was a little out of my comfort zone. And, well, looks-wise, it really didn't disappoint. I mean, when you have something called Ape Escape, you really don't know what to expect. Or maybe you do, and it was the opposite of what you were thinking. Like, when I heard this title, I expected this. However, what I got was something with a lot of charm. The levels, the character designs, those damn dirty apes. All just amazingly silly with a ton of charisma. The levels in particular, I mean, come on, look at them. These level designs are masterful. They have a sort of relaxing, chill vibe coming from them, so much so that you can't help but want to just hang out in them. Some of the things inside these levels are insane too. Like Dexter, the giant dinosaur you get to go inside of in Oceania. The ice hut in New Friesen some apes have been living in, complete with furniture. And the ice bucket hat. Wait, what? Talking about vibes, the music absolutely adds to it. Composed by Soichi Terada, it adds so much to the setting, giving a sci-fi flair to thematically appropriate tracks for each area. Sure, they're all super simplistic, only really using synth and drums, but they do so much with it that you really can't tell unless you're listening more intently. Like in the Ancient Japan level, they use a taiko drum sound font and the synth sounds like a shamisen. How cool is that? And if that wasn't enough, the music is adaptive. When you sneak in-game, the music actively gets quieter. The soundtrack is masterful, taking advantage of a bunch of different synth sound fonts, incorporating that into its style, and coming up with something amazing to listen to while you play. Speaking about playing the game, let's talk about the controls. Ape Escape was made to show off Sony's DualShock controller, being the first PlayStation title to fully require it, and honestly it works. Sure, the controls are super primitive, seeing as how you attack with the right stick and the camera controls are limited to the D-pad, which, trust me, gets really frustrating, but seeing as how this was during a time where they were still figuring out what the hell to do with 2 sticks, it's serviceable.
However, I'm not really able to put into words how it feels to play this game. So for this part, I'm going to hand it off to my co-writer and partner in crime, comne0.
Hey everyone, co-writer and Ape Escape expert comne0 here, and I'm gonna talk about the Ape Escape control scheme. I'm obsessed with whatever the fuck is going on here. This control scheme horrifies me. Ape Escape exists as a relic of early 3D gaming, the one part in time where we really had no fucking clue how a game should be controlled. Because of this, the game takes a shit all over the controller. The camera, for instance. In modern 3D games, the right analog stick would hold domain over where you look. Ape Escape looks at this controller with its bold second nipple and says, "No, where else will we fit our game's stupid gimmick?" Because of this, the camera is mapped to the D-pad, or the L2 button. Both of these choices are insane, and not where the camera controls should be. The analog stick is instead used to control the gadgets in the game. This idea is unfortunately novel at best. Cool ideas like having the stun baton and the time net operate in a full circle around the player at any given time get old quickly and force the player to struggle through what would otherwise be a decent platformer. You just can't see where you're going, and that's unforgivable in a 3D platformer that requires making precise inputs or catching some sort of mischievous creature trying to dodge you, like, say, an ape. If the game requires you to turn around for any reason, be it combat or, the core gameplay loop, you're just fucked. Beyond this mistake of a camera, almost all of the button placements are fucking baffling. All the face buttons are mapped to quick swap between the game's 8 tools, meaning that you can only have 4 gadgets active at a time. The solution for jumping is actually quite elegant, despite feeling like an afterthought. The right bumper and trigger both make spike jump, and due to how modern controllers are held, you should always have a finger on one of the jump buttons, even when engaging with the inputs on the controller's face. This unfortunately does not excuse the game's greatest sin, the spin controls. The right analog stick has a full 360-degree range of motion, and this is where Ape Escape controls really shit the bed. The optimal input, or in some cases the only input, for all but one of the game's tools requires spinning the stick in a full circle repeatedly. This ends up being extremely painful in the later levels, even during shorter play sessions where you only complete a single stage. The first Mario Party had 2 minigames with similar control schemes that put kids in the fucking hospital 5 months before Ape Escape came out. If a game has controls that physically hurt you, something needs to be fixed.
Talking about the actual gameplay of Ape Escape is pretty difficult. On one hand, its sense of exploration is great. It's simple, silly fun, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and each level is beautiful, being full of fun new stuff to see and apes to catch. Exploring every corner of a new world gives you a sense of wonder and leaves you wanting to play more, and it delivers, with back-to-back bangers of cool stuff to see and do. Plus, you get new gadgets occasionally to mix it up a little bit. Sure, some were definitely better than others, like the Skyflyer, which propels you up in the air, or the Dash Hoop, which lets you run fast for a couple seconds and gain some invulnerability. They all added a small, welcome amount of variety to the game, even when I only used some of them once. Then you've got the other hand, where halfway through the developers changed the design philosophy out of nowhere, forcing the game to turn into a 3D platformer with dogshit platforming, and they are hellbent on making you like it. I like some of the exploration in Ape Escape. What the fuck does it know about platforming? Also, the theming is just thrown out the window. When it decides it wants to be Mario 64 out of nowhere, it crumbles under its own weight. Playing through the latter half of this was a literal nightmare. Honestly, if it had just stuck with the original idea of being an explorative collectathon, I would have told you it was, while simplistic, an amazing game, one of my favorites on the PS1. However, there are so many factors that limit its greatness. Suddenly, you stop exploring environments and start slogging through levels. Spike finds himself time traveling to a loose collection of platforming challenges, each more uninteresting and uninspired than the last. It begins throwing new mechanics at you, trying to see what sticks, like a tank or an RC car gadget. Spoiler alert, none of it really works. The platforming feels so forced and not well thought out, almost like this was a last-minute decision. And the most egregious thing is that when the game shifts focus, the difficulty spikes as well. They suddenly introduce race levels that are nigh impossible to beat. Then, there are these random jumps in difficulty, with enemies being introduced with some kind of bullshit mechanics, be it disappearing when you get too close, or being invincible until you dodge an attack of theirs. Which doesn't sound that bad, but when you're working with the controls they give you, it can become a pretty tall task. And then there are the boss fights. God, don't even get me started on the boss fights. Usually when you fight a boss, it's 3 hits then you win. In Ape Escape, it's 5. 5 hits and you win. That needlessly draws it out for no reason. It's stupid. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a game that degrades this much in real time. It goes from what I consider at least a 9 out of 10, and then slowly goes down until it reaches around a 4. This had so much potential. It was amazing when it stuck to its original idea of running around and collecting apes, but it just throws all of that out the door. It's genuinely a shame seeing how it went down the toilet in real time. It's disappointing. I was expecting way more out of it, seeing as how it's considered one of the greatest on the original PlayStation, alongside Final Fantasy VII, Crash Bandicoot, and Spyro the Dragon. However, in the end, all I got was an experience that, while amazing at first, fell flat on expectations. Now, I really wanted to like this game. Hell, I wanted to love it. And, well, I kind of did in a way. It's not bad by any means, far from it. I just think it's insanely flawed. All things considered, it was fine. I think the first half was amazing. It has insane charm with a fun environment, great music, amazing visuals, the works. However, by the end, it didn't hit as hard for me as it did for others.
Now, don't get me wrong, this is far from the worst thing I've played. I think everything that surrounds it is amazing, so much so that me and Neo were in ape hysteria for 6 months. But sadly, I think it just failed on execution. Now, this hasn't fully turned me off from Ape Escape as a whole. I would like to play and eventually talk about the other entries in this series, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, I've been PhantomStar, and I'll see you in the next video, where I finally catch my father's killer. Where are you, you motherfucker?